7 men's stories, exciting entertainment.
She said, "I'm okay, Dad," then disappeared forever. The babysitting case that still haunts America. Welcome to a new true crime story. Chapter 1. The Final Call. "Dad, I'm okay. Everything's fine here." These were the last known words of 15-year-old Evelyn Hartley, spoken during a routine check-in call with her father at 8:15 p.m. on October 24, 1953. By 10:30 p.m., she would be gone forever, leaving behind a scene of struggle that has baffled investigators for generations. When Dr. Viggo Rasmussen returned home that night, he found his 20-month-old daughter safely asleep upstairs, but the babysitter had vanished. Evelyn's glasses and a shoe were on the floor. Blood stained the walls and floors. A basement window had been forced open from the outside. It was as if something monstrous had reached into ordinary life and snatched away a child, leaving a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Chapter 2. Blood on the basement floor. Dr. Rasmussen's 2-story home on Prospect Avenue appeared perfectly normal when he returned at 10:30 p.m. The lights were on, the curtains drawn. Nothing outwardly suggested the horror inside. The peaceful image shattered when he entered the living room. An overturned chair lay near the telephone where Evelyn had last spoken to her father. A side table was knocked over, its contents spilled across the floor. The couch sat at an odd angle, its cushions disturbed like someone had struggled against them. Upstairs, the Rasmussen baby slept undisturbed in her crib, unaware of the violence that had occurred below. This ordinary family home had become a crime scene, its domestic tranquility violently interrupted. In the basement, investigators found the most disturbing evidence. Drops and smears of blood marked a trail from the main floor down the wooden steps. The quantity wasn't substantial, but its presence told a clear story of injury and struggle. 2 key pieces of Evelyn's belongings were found separated from her. Her eyeglasses lay on the basement floor, one lens cracked from impact. A single brown loafer was discovered near the stairs, its mate never found. These ordinary objects took on grim significance, representing the sudden rupture of a young girl's life. The basement window provided the strongest physical evidence. Someone had pried open the wooden frame from outside, leaving distinct tool marks in the paint. Broken glass fragments were found both inside and outside the home. The intruder appeared to have entered here, an ideal point of entry concealed by bushes along the house's foundation. Police immediately noted troubling signs of premeditation. The window's location suggested the attacker had surveilled the home beforehand. The timing coincided with when Evelyn would have been alone after putting the child to bed. Most disturbing was the attacker's apparent familiarity with the house layout, knowing where to find the basement entrance and how to navigate quietly through the home. Forensic techniques in 1953 couldn't extract the detailed evidence modern investigations rely on. No fingerprints were recovered from the window frame. The blood samples could only confirm it was human, not whose it was. Investigators had to rely heavily on physical evidence observations rather than scientific analysis. The scene painted a clear picture of violence, but offered no answers about Evelyn's fate. There was enough blood to suggest injury, but not enough to indicate a fatal wound. No drag marks or trails leading away from the property. The forced entry showed planning, yet nothing in the home appeared stolen. This contradiction haunted investigators. A crime executed with purpose, but leaving behind its apparent motive. Investigators immediately treated the case as an abduction rather than a runaway situation. The violence evident in the home, combined with Evelyn's responsible nature, eliminated theories of voluntary disappearance. As they documented each piece of evidence, the broken eyeglasses, the blood patterns, the forced window, one terrible question remained. Someone had taken Evelyn Hartley, and they had done so with deliberate intent. As word spread through the quiet streets of La Crosse, neighbors began locking doors that had previously gone unsecured. Parents called their children home early. The ordinary rhythms of small-town life gave way to creeping unease. By morning, the search for Evelyn would become the largest in Wisconsin history. But in those first hours, the crime scene only offered more questions than answers. Chapter 3: Suspects in the Shadows. The disappearance of Evelyn Hartley sent shockwaves through La Crosse, transforming a quiet community into a place of suspicion and fear. Within days, investigators pursued multiple theories, each more disturbing than the last. The most obvious suspect profile pointed to a sexual predator, someone who had targeted Evelyn specifically. Police noted the basement entry suggested prior surveillance, possibly watching the house to learn routines. This theory gained traction when officers uncovered reports of a prowler in the neighborhood weeks earlier. Residents recalled seeing a strange car circling the block, though no one could provide a clear description. Another working theory involved transient criminals. La Crosse sat along major rail lines and highways, making it accessible to drifters. Investigators combed through records of known sex offenders released from state institutions, comparing their whereabouts that night. One potential suspect was a recently paroled convict with a history of violent assaults against young women. He had been working at a farm near La Crosse, but couldn't account for his movements on October 24th. While never formally charged, he remained a person of interest for years. More disturbing theories suggested local involvement. Some investigators wondered if Evelyn had known her attacker, given how quickly the fatal encounter unfolded. This line of inquiry led to uncomfortable questions about faculty members at the university where her father taught. One professor came under scrutiny after neighbors reported seeing him acting strangely near the Rasmussen home that week. The man abruptly left town days after the disappearance, fueling speculation, but police found no direct evidence connecting him to the crime. The investigation took an unexpected turn when a witness came forward claiming to see Evelyn after her disappearance. A bartender in Minnesota reported serving a girl matching Evelyn's description on October 25th, accompanied by two men in a vintage sedan. This lead suggested the possibility of abduction for purposes other than murder, perhaps forced prostitution. Detectives traced similar cars registered in Wisconsin and neighboring states, but the trail went cold. FBI profilers in 1953 speculated the kidnapper likely had below-average intelligence but competent enough to plan the crime. The forced entry and apparent familiarity with the house indicated local knowledge. Investigators believed the attacker may have worked in construction or manual labor based on the tool marks left on the window frame. Unlike modern profiling, these early assessments relied more on anecdotal experience than scientific methodology. By November 1953, sheriff's deputies focused on a prime suspect, a carnival worker who had been in town during the kidnapping. Witnesses placed him near Prospect Avenue that evening, and he had a criminal record including assault. Most compelling, His work gloves matched tool impressions from the window. However, without a body or eyewitnesses placing him inside the home, prosecutors declined to file charges. The man maintained his innocence until his death in 1972. Parallels to other mid-century abductions added to the unease. Evelyn's case bore similarities to the 1950 disappearance of Georgie Ann Tyler in Oregon, another babysitter taken from a home. Both cases involved forced entries while caring for young children, suggesting the perpetrators specifically targeted this vulnerable situation. Some investigators believed a serial offender could be responsible, but without forensic connections, this remained speculative. Decades later, the theories remain unresolved. Modern investigators reviewing the case suggest the attacker likely died or was imprisoned for other crimes. Without physical evidence to test with DNA technology, the truth may never be known. Each theory, the prowling predator, the transient criminal, the local acquaintance, carries disturbing implications, yet none brought Evelyn home or provided justice for her family. The lingering questions tormented the community. Parents changed how they hired babysitters, often requiring teens to work in pairs. Authorities implemented new protocols for missing persons cases. Yet for all the speculation and investigation, Evelyn Hartley's fate remains one of Wisconsin's most haunting mysteries. Her story a reminder of how quickly safety can shatter. As the years passed, the search continued through sporadic tips and occasional evidence reviews, but each lead ended the same way, with unanswered questions and a family left waiting. Chapter 4: A Town on Its Feet. 5,000 searchers, 25 miles, not a single trace. By dawn on October 25, 1953, more than 1,000 volunteers had already gathered in La Crosse to search for Evelyn Hartley. It would become the largest coordinated search effort in Wisconsin history, eventually involving over 5,000 civilians, police officers, National Guardsmen, and even Boy Scout troops. They spread across a 25-mile radius, checking abandoned buildings, scouring the banks of the Mississippi River, and peering into storm drains. Searchers used long poles to poke through dense underbrush, while others waded into the chilly autumn waters of nearby lakes. Farmers allowed teams to inspect their properties, opening barns and outbuildings that normally stayed locked. Despite this massive effort, the first 48 hours yielded nothing. The case took a grim turn when bloodhounds picked up Evelyn's scent near the Rasmussen home, but lost it at a curb where witnesses reported seeing a parked car that night. Investigators realized the kidnapper likely used a vehicle, expanding the possible search area exponentially. Police set up roadblocks, questioning drivers about anything suspicious they might have seen. Dozens reported vehicles matching descriptions of the suspect car, but none led to Evelyn. False leads plagued the investigation from the beginning. One woman claimed to have seen Evelyn in a Chicago bus station, leading to a futile search of the city's terminals. Another insisted she spotted the missing girl in St. Paul, Minnesota, but police found no evidence to support the claim. The most damaging hoax came when a local teenager confessed to the crime, providing disturbingly accurate details about the crime scene. After hours of interrogation, he admitted making it up, wasting precious time when Evelyn might still have been alive. The psychological toll on searchers became apparent as days passed without progress. Volunteers described the eerie feeling of calling Evelyn's name into silent woods, hearing only the echo in return. Some reported strange occurrences, flashlights failing inexplicably, or the sense of being watched in remote search areas. The Hartley family maintained hope publicly, but privately, Evelyn's father grew increasingly distraught. He kept his daughter's room exactly as she left it, unable to accept she might never return. Search techniques in the 1950s lacked the organization and technology available today. There were no standardized protocols for grid searches or evidence collection. Volunteers sometimes contaminated potential crime scenes by handling objects or trampling areas before investigators could examine them. Without helicopters or thermal imaging, searches relied on human eyesight and sheer numbers. The limitations became painfully clear as weeks passed with no sign of Evelyn. By November, the search expanded to neighboring states. Police followed tips from Iowa to Michigan, checking everything from roadside ditches to remote cabins. In one particularly cruel twist, hunters found clothing resembling Evelyn's in a Wisconsin forest, but testing proved it wasn't hers. Around Thanksgiving, the official ground search scaled back, though private investigators continued following leads for years. The case left permanent changes in how Wisconsin handled missing persons. Evelyn's disappearance led to faster mobilization of search efforts for other cases. Law enforcement began coordinating more systematically with volunteers, learning from the chaos of those initial days. Babysitters and parents became more cautious, with many families implementing new safety measures like check-in calls and locked doors during evening hours. In the decades since, periodic reviews of the case file have turned up no new evidence. Modern forensic techniques couldn't be applied because most physical evidence from the scene has been lost or degraded. Some investigators theorize Evelyn's remains may lie in one of Wisconsin's countless abandoned wells or remote quarries, places searchers couldn't access in 1953. Others believe she was taken far beyond the initial search area, possibly across state lines before anyone realized she was missing. The search for Evelyn Hartley represents both the best and worst of community response to tragedy. It showed how thousands could unite in common purpose, yet also revealed how disorganized goodwill could hinder an investigation. Most tragically, it demonstrated how even the most thorough search could fail against a determined perpetrator who knew how to vanish with his victim. The case remains open today, a haunting reminder that not all mysteries get solved, not all searches find what they seek. In quiet moments, those who knew Evelyn still wonder if some clue was missed, some path not taken that might have brought her home. Chapter 5: A Broken Town. Evelyn Hartley's disappearance permanently altered the fabric of La Crosse. Before October 1953, it was common for babysitters to walk home alone at night or leave doors unlocked while watching children. Afterward, families implemented strict new rules: locked doors, check-in calls, even background checks for sitters. Some parents refused to hire teenage babysitters at all, opting for older women or relatives instead. The case became a benchmark for child safety discussions nationwide, cited in parenting guides and community safety meetings for years. Despite these changes, controversy lingers over how authorities handled the investigation. Some modern analysts argue police focused too narrowly on certain suspects while ignoring other possibilities. The initial assumption of a sexual predator may have blinded detectives to alternative motives. Others counter that for 1953, the response was remarkably thorough, mobilizing thousands of searchers within hours and maintaining active leads for decades. The truth likely lies somewhere between, a product of both its time and the extraordinary circumstances. The tragedy spurred concrete legal and procedural reforms. Wisconsin lawmakers passed new missing persons legislation, reducing bureaucratic delays in launching searches. Police departments developed better protocols for coordinating volunteer efforts after witnessing the chaos of the Hartley search. The case also influenced forensic science, highlighting the need for standardized evidence collection long before DNA analysis became commonplace. These changes couldn't bring Evelyn back, but they may have prevented similar disappearances from remaining unsolved. Modern investigators have occasionally revisited the case, applying new techniques to old evidence. In 2004, forensic anthropologists analyzed the blood samples using methods unavailable in 1953, though degraded materials yielded no usable DNA. Ground-penetrating radar surveys of suspected burial sites turned up nothing. Some investigators speculate the killer may have disposed of Evelyn's remains in the Mississippi River, where strong currents could have carried them beyond recovery. Without physical evidence or witness testimony, even advanced technology has limits. The story endures in popular culture, featured in true crime documentaries and podcasts. Each retelling brings renewed interest, sometimes generating fresh tips, though none have led to breakthroughs. Local historians preserve Evelyn's memory through exhibits at the La Crosse County Historical Society, where her yearbook photos and personal effects serve as quiet reminders of the vibrant life interrupted. For longtime residents, her disappearance remains a dividing line between the trusting community of the past and the more cautious present. Critically, the case exposed vulnerabilities in small-town America's sense of security. Before Evelyn, many believed violent crimes happened elsewhere, in big cities or along distant highways. Her abduction shattered that illusion, proving evil could penetrate even quiet neighborhoods. This realization shaped generations of Midwestern families, fostering both healthy caution and lingering paranoia. Some older residents still recall the exact moment they heard the news, a shared trauma that bonded the community even as it instilled permanent wariness. The Hartley family never recovered. Evelyn's parents kept her bedroom untouched for years, unable to part with her belongings. Her father reportedly visited the Rasmussen home frequently, staring at the basement window as if it might somehow provide answers. The weight of not knowing whether Evelyn suffered, where her remains might lie, haunted them until their deaths. Unlike cases with convictions or recovered bodies, they lacked even the grim closure of certainty. 70 years later, Evelyn's story resonates because it encapsulates every parent's nightmare. The ordinary setting, a babysitting job, a family home, makes the violation feel uncomfortably close. Modern audiences recognize elements of later high-profile abductions, in her case, the suspicious vehicle, the lack of forensic evidence, the agonizing search. Yet, unlike those stories, Evelyn's lacks resolution, leaving us suspended between hope and despair. Her legacy persists in unexpected ways. University psychology courses study the case as an example of investigative psychology's evolution. Crime prevention programs use it to demonstrate the importance of community vigilance. Even the most routine babysitting safety tips, lock doors, no emergency contacts, carry echoes of the lessons learned in 1953. The tragedy shaped not just laws, but attitudes, proving that safety requires active effort rather than assumed goodwill. Today, visitors to La Crosse sometimes pause near the Rasmussen home, now privately owned with no marker of its dark history. The basement window where the killer entered remains, though likely replaced over decades. Neighborhood children play nearby, unaware that the sidewalk once teemed with searchers clutching flashlights and hope. Evelyn Hartley's absence lingers in these spaces, a quiet question mark in American crime history. As forensics advance and cold case techniques improve, some still hold out hope that one day, the Mississippi's muddy banks or some forgotten corner of Wisconsin might finally yield the truth. Until then, her story stands as both warning and mystery, an ordinary evening turned nightmare that changed a community forever. Chapter 6: Still Missing. Evelyn Hartley's disappearance remains one of America's most chilling unsolved mysteries. After 70 years, the case still raises unsettling questions. Who took her and why? Despite thousands of leads and advances in forensic science, the truth remains hidden. If you know anything, no matter how small, contact La Crosse police. Even the slightest detail could bring closure to a decades-old wound. Her story forces us to confront how safety can vanish in an instant. Yet it also shows how communities unite in crisis and how one girl's life continues to echo through history. Somewhere, the answers still wait to be found.
Disclaimer: the images are AI generated and are for illustration purposes. The stories on this channel are researched to the best of our knowledge.